allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reminder, tonight's meeting is being both video and audio taped, and if anyone in the audience is doing so, please inform the board. Ms. Barilla, thank you very much. Before we get started, I would like to take a couple of minutes for some comments. First of all, I would like to congratulate John on your new position on the board. Strap in, hold on. And also I would like the board to offer Mr. Jim Gagner. He stepped up the plate for 3 years, and more people should be like him and get involved in town politics. And thank Mr. Gagner for his time served. I'd also like to thank Mr. Nardi, the countless hours, and you don't know how much work it goes into putting on an annual town meeting. And Mr. Dario seems to be more comfortable with figures than some of the other members of the board, and I would like to extend our thanks to Mr. Nardi. John, yourself and the rest of the Finance Committee for all the hours and the work that you folks put in. Capital Planning Committee for their efforts trying to get on board and get our program up and running. Nancy at the Town Clerk's office and her staff. And especially to Mrs. Sarah, without effort, it would never all come together at all. So please extend the courtesy to people that make things happen in this town. Also, comments and concerns. You noticed that I moved it up to the beginning of the meeting. I just thought my personal opinion, comments and concerns is for quick information, a simple question, and I would rather have it at the beginning of the meeting so that people that have those issues don't have to sit through the whole meeting to do so. But I would also like to remind everyone that this time slot is for quick, simple questions or information regarding town events. This is not the time to initiate a debate regarding ongoing issues. If folks have a question, please check with the respective department heads. You have an issue with the police department, check with the chief. Board of Health, check with those folks, taxes, etc., etc. If you have legitimate concerns, you will be more than welcome to get on a future agenda. But I don't want to bog down the beginnings of the meeting into a debate session. This is not open mic night. Hearing that, anybody comments and concerns? Ann?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Going over the annual report, I was talking to my mother, and the Paul Stokosa Baseball Trust Fund, which Paul had set up before he passed away. The money is supposed to be used for baseball, but no one has drawn on that account. And it's in the I guess you have to see do you have to see the treasurer to get the money?
Yes,
Or to release
the
money?
board really doesn't have much to do with that, and so if you have concerns or questions regarding that, you're gonna have to go see the treasurer.
Okay, thank you.
It's something that this board doesn't get involved in.
Okay,
I would think she'd be more than happy to help you out.
thank you very much.
Anybody else? Ms. Dan?
Last year, the Board of Selectmen initiated an evaluation program for all department heads. Was it completed last year?
The evaluations?
Yes.
As far as I know, yes it was.
Now, follow-up, are we gonna pursue that as a policy? If so, what kind of a time frame do we have on it, and how do we assign responsibility?
That has not been a discussion. Obviously, we have a new member. It's not been brought up since the last time it was done, but if this is something that you're really interested in, that the board continue to do this process, we can set something up between the three of us. And because I know last time it was certain people did everybody, but everybody ended up looking at everybody else to get a consensus of what was done.
Thank you.
But, Mr. Chairman, it's also in our bylaws.
It's in
They
the
have to be
budget.
done.
There you go.
I've heard that there's a group in town that's called the Citizens for Selectmen Accountability. And every department and employee in town should be accountable and transparent. And Warren should follow Ware's lead. as far as putting an article on the next town hall meeting to approve an in-depth fiscal and operational audit of all town departments, starting with the department with the biggest budget. And I would like you to consider that.
Can you make a note of that, Mrs.
And-
Still? Take it up at a future meeting?
As a follow-up, you know, you wanna be transparent. I mean, in September, the Western Mass News and Patrolman's Facebook page complained about, had a complaint about the town, the police association, alleging that the town accountant knowingly and wantonly underpaid the police and dispatch. There was no follow-up on their report, and I understand it's been settled. Can you tell me how much money was paid out each of the 3 years? And from what budget they were paid out of?
At this time, no, I cannot. The simple fact that we are waiting on a few more signatures, and until the process is complete, it is against state law for me to comment.
But it will be
Yes, it is
accessible.
very, very close to conclusion. Like I say, Mrs. Soltis, we are just actually waiting for a couple more signatures for the individuals to sign off. As soon as the process is done, everything will be made public record.
Okay, I have one more thing. In October, the Western Mass News carried a story about the storm damage to the police department in the booking room and the concerns about asbestos, mold, rodents, lack of ventilation, unsafe structure. And I haven't seen any news follow-up as to the cause was the lack of maintenance of a clogged drain pipe that was reported in August and was not taken care of, and that the Springfield abatement report indicated that the building is in good condition and that there was no sign of asbestos. Has the work been completed, and have any of the members of the board viewed the area?
I'm sorry, repeat that last.
Have any of the members of the board viewed the area?
As far as I know, there was still some minor things being done, and I have not been down there since the damage was done. But again, Beverly, I would like to, you know, if this is something that warrants further discussion, which I think it does, I do not want to take up the time with this meeting. I would be more than happy to put on a future agenda with
Okay.
specific questions.
And my last thing, Mr. Chairman, under old business, it would be helpful to expel any fake news. If once a month, you know, you give an update on town projects, such as the downtown project, the 940 Main Street, the cell tower, I mean, any projects that are going on.
We'll put something on that.
Yeah, maybe
I don't have a
once a
problem with
month.
that.
Thank you.
Sir?
Dave Kirk. I think, as you know, last night was the first meeting for the Strategic Planning Committee for the Quabog Regional School District. And given the ongoing financial, and I would say growing financial challenges with the school district, last night's meeting was to hear the first of, I think, what will be at least 2 potential consultants to come in that could assist in this strategic planning group. I volunteered to be on the group as a concerned citizen. There were about 36 people that had signed up for that, of which 21 were either school staff and teachers, 9 were parents, 4 on the school committee, and 2, including myself, concerned citizens, for a total of 36. There was no one representing either the West Brookfield government or the Warren government. And given the magnitude of this and the importance of it, and the financial issues go beyond what's in the 4 walls of that building or the 3 buildings in the organization, is the Warren government going to participate and have some
I don't know how to answer. I would assume that once the talks get going, somebody from the board will represent it. But, you know, the school, that's a whole, and the finances, that's a whole, I could take up a meeting with that, and I'm not gonna do it tonight. But I will assure that somebody from this board will end up going to represent it, yes.
Mr. Chairman, if you're looking for a volunteer, I'll take that.
There's your man.
I mean, it's up to you. I'm on the finance committee, and
Yes,
they
I know
have
that,
had me
sir.
down as Dave Kirk, Warren Finance Committee. I've corrected them. I said, I have not been asked by the town representing the town. I'm here as a concerned citizen, and I think both towns need to have a couple of people representing them so that, because this is a challenge for all of us, and I think we all constituents in this, including the town governments, need to be part of the solution. So I'm glad to hear that the town will participate. Thank you.
No, I don't have any problem. I think somebody will get involved, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else? John, you're up.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Selectmen meeting of April 30th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
One abstention?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 2nd, 2018 Board of Selectmen meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the minutes from May 8th, 2018 Quabog Regional Middle High School Special and Annual Town Meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that is it for minutes.
So let's run into correspondence.
Correspondence, we have, the office received the monthly report from the fire chief and CERT Ian for the month of April 2018. And this year's Memorial Day Parade will take place on Sunday, May 27th, beginning at 1 p.m. at St. Paul's Cemetery. Veterans, the youth sports group, or town organizations are welcome and encouraged to march. Please contact the Board of Selectmen's office for more information.
On that note, I hope we have a good turnout, and I really do encourage, the more the merrier. It's awful disappointing sometimes to walk down that street with 20 people. You know, sports groups, anybody that wants to get involved. This is an important thing that I think over the past few years, that Memorial Day used to be a very special day, but it's really just comes down to another Sunday. So I would encourage people to come out. Anybody that wants to march is very willing. And I would, hopefully we have a good turnout. All set?
That is it.
All right, introduction to firefighter EMT Jacob Johnson. Adam, Chief, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm here tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce Jacob Thompson here to the board, as well as everyone else here this evening. As the board is aware, we've had a transition on the fire department. One of our full-time members was hired recently full-time for the town of Sturbridge. Jake was willing and is more than qualified to take his position here internally in the department, which honestly is a blessing for us because he knows the system, he knows what we do. Jake has been with us since the very end of 2011. He's coming up on 7 full years worth of serving as a firefighter and an EMT for the town as a call member. He's actually on shift tonight as a full-time member for the first time, and I'd like to thank the board for signing his appointment slip effective the 13th. Just to give a little bit of background about Jacob, he's a 2012 graduate of Quabog High School. He's one of those go-getters. When he was a captain for multiple sports teams while he was in school there. He took his EMT class while he was in school there. So he's got a ton of drive. He's one of those people that is always working on something. So, you know, he's got a lot of irons in the fire, and he's, you know, proven himself to be a valuable member to our department. So I welcome him aboard as a full-time member. It's a pleasure to have him, and I would just like to bring him here tonight to introduce him and have him shake the hands and be welcomed aboard. So I present Jacob Thompson.
Sir? Thank you. Thank you. Smile. Yeah. Thank you.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank Thanks, Chief.
No problem. Like I said, he is on shift tonight, so I'm gonna excuse him after this so he can remain in his duties, but
Good work.
thank you very much.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Jake.
All right, 7:15, Veterans Council, pinning ceremony of towns of Warren's first responder veterans. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Sarah.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm Rebecca Sarah. I serve as the chair on the Veterans Council, and I can say with no hesitation, I would never serve up for the armed services, so I thank everybody that has. My fellow council members and I, we would like to acknowledge our first responders that work for the town of Warren, and we certainly do appreciate everything that you do. First of all, I would like to thank Gary Lapine. He's our veteran service officer. He is also served in the United States Army. And members of our council that are here this evening, Mr. Sean LaBeouf on the end over here, and Mr. James Kordak, both served in the United States Marine Corps. And one of the noteworthy items that was brought to my attention today, that Sean, in addition to serving in the Marine Corps, also he was commissioned in the United States Army, rising to the rank of captain. And that's quite an accomplishment. Judy Rice, who is not here tonight, is Jacob's grandmother. She was unable to be here this evening, but she served in the United States Navy. And her husband, Lloyd Rice, who is here with us, served in the Army National Guard. Richard Jelinas, who is here, served in the United States Air Force. And Mr. Bill Ramsey, who was not able to be here tonight, served in the United States Army as well. I would also like to thank Mrs. Lezak for being here. She is the chaplain to the Ladies Auxiliary, American Legion Post 244 in West Brookfield. So thank you all. So tonight we have Officer Rainey Cody with us. He's a part-time police officer with the Warren Police Department and has served in the Massachusetts Army National Guard for 22 years as both a part-time and full-time soldier. He enlisted in 1992 as a private first class E1. During this time, he was deployed to Southwest Asia in 2007 and 2008 and held the following military occupational specialties: personnel actions, military police officer, ordnance officer, and logistical officer before retiring as a commissioned officer at the rank of Major 04. Detective Von Dauber, who was not able to be here this evening, as many of you know, he serves as a full-time officer here in Warren. Jeff served in the United States Coast Guard and was on active duty from 1996 to 2000, gaining a rank of E5 Petty Officer Second Class. During his time, he was stationed in Boston and also served aboard the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Polar Sea with a home port in Seattle, Washington, and participated in Operation Deep Freeze. Brian Rodriguez, who is a member of the Call Fire Department, he is unable to be here this evening as he is actively deployed and or serving in the United States Army in Texas right now. We'd like to thank him, Officer Cody, and Von Dauber for service to our country. And I would like to introduce also one of our longtime resident veterans, Leo Sweat, who served 3 tours in Vietnam in the United States Army, to pin Officer Cody.
Wherever you would like.
Yeah.
Right up here on the label here?
That works.
Yeah. Right up.
Do you guys get pins?
Yes, now we're getting somewhere. We got this straightened out here. Congratulations.
Didn't even draw any blood.
So before we end, I would also like us to take a moment to recognize the members of law enforcement that have lost their lives in active duty. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy declared May 15th as National Peace Officer Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls is National Police Week. We thank each and every member of law enforcement who serve our communities and who have paid the ultimate price. Thank you.
us to sit here and debate back and forth. Think of it for that opportunity.
And if I could just add one thing, just to add to what John said in correspondence, our Memorial Day Parade is May 27th, beginning at 1 p.m. And we really do encourage everybody, sports teams, I know the fire and the police, they're going to be there again. So anybody that would like to march, we would, and veterans too. You don't have to fit into your uniform.
No.
That's the excuse I get all the time. We don't fit in.
I'd like to see something put in the, I'd like to see something put in the paper to encourage more veterans to participate. As of last year, there was just me and Mr. Jelinas that were marching as veterans. And if it wasn't for the American Legion in West Brookfield helping us out, we wouldn't have a parade.
But I had sent out about 70 invitations to veterans, so we're sending them out again. And I see that the newspaper's here tonight. I'll make sure that she gets a copy and
Yeah.
try to run it in the paper.
We need a few more
Yep.
guys to march. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
You man. Alrighty, folks. Number 8, Rutland Emergency Communications Center, a letter of interest, vote expected. This is a letter that we're sending off. We're expressing interest for regionalization. We're just exploring it. This has the support of the 2 chiefs, and this gets the process started. So we are just sending a letter to see how and if we can end up working out something.
I'll make a motion to sign the letter of interest for the Rutland Dispatch Center.
Have a second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Just for the chair to sign in blue pen mark.
Alrighty, next on the agenda we have Mr. Michael Burrell, our cell tower discussion. Before we get started, Mr. Burrell, let me just give you a word of caution. You're on the agenda to discuss your concerns regarding the cell tower.
Yep,
Stick to the subject, please,
yep.
and questions only regarding the cell tower project. No questions regarding people that aren't present or accusations.
Right.
The board will more than happy to hear your concerns, but please don't morph off into another subject, because I will end the discussion for you.
Right, yeah.
So on that note, please go ahead, Michael.
Okay. Would it be okay if I come up to the table on
Yeah,
your
you can,
left?
whatever you're comfortable.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, you should have, oh, you do have the handouts. Good. Fair enough. Basically, I'll try and make this hopefully 5 minutes, no more than 10 minutes at the most, but I'll just zip right through it. I basically put together a little speech per se that I'm going to read. So my name is Michael Burrell from Uxbridge Warren. I'm the former candidate at the Warren's Board of Selectmen back in May in 2015. So thank you for putting me on the agenda. I'd like this to be an informative session tonight to help the board better understand radio communication tower sites specific to the proposed cell tower project underway. I've been a radio technician for 23 years and also worked for several years in a tower site management company, which means I know the ins and outs of the communication sites and cell towers as well. In August of 2015, the planning board held a hearing about the cell tower proposal. The former selectman individual that was working on this cell tower project spoke, and I was able to determine during that conversation that he had of which cell tower company it was. So on August 31, 2015, the guy currently working with this board here from the cell tower company called me back, and we spoke and had a conversation. Details of this conversation were as follows. I made little bullet points. He mentioned that there is another cell tower in town that now covers the Mass Pike. That prompted me to then ask why he mentioned that he was looking to have this cell site be a fill-in site versus a full coverage site. He said some of the cell carriers are already on that current tower. He was also aware that there are other towers in town and that they have no cellular carriers on them now. Their goal since they build towers as what their business does and own them, they wanted revenue for themselves, and they owned their own land, and including the tower, and then rent it out. I advised him that I owned a land lot atop Coy Hill in Warren and offered him my land if interested. He said that this site is too high in elevation and mentioned that they were really seeking for a spot for fill-in gaps for Route 19 and Route 67 area. He then said he already had an agreement with a former selectman individual and the tower had to be put where he wanted it. I then asked who picked up this proposed site you were talking about, and he said the former selectman individual told me on the phone conversation that it was going to his friend's house. He told him where they needed the coverage, and then the former selectman individual got them the land lot. When I heard above, it led me to my next question to ask this cell tower company, which was, since you are planning on owning the land as well as the tower, and the rent gets paid to you, the tower owner, is there a commission and or finder's fee? He replied to me, yes, $10,000. I then asked how this would work out since its individual is a current selectman. He told me the selectman individual requested to make the check payable to him and not payable to the town of Warren. I also advised the proposed offer price to the landowner was that they were planning on purchasing this land was the price of $250,000 for that parcel of land. And just to refresh your memory, this conversation is back in 2015. Knowing the above details of this board's deal, I attended the Thursday, November 5, 2015 special town meeting. I requested to speak on Article 8, zoning amendments for wireless communications facilities. After the motion for the article was read, the voters approved me, and I was able to speak about the following things. I publicly, for the first time, said the name of the cell tower company, informing the voters so they would not be left in the dark anymore. I publicly attempted to inform the voters that they should petition the Board of Selectmen member to submit requests to have cell towers put on their property if they were interested, so they would then get the revenue from the sale of the land or maybe monthly income in lieu of a sale. I did not publicly disclose at that time the financial figures that I knew about as I spoke at the town meeting, keeping that data in my back pocket for future use. I did not publicly disclose other proposed sites that were told to me on the phone, which included Bacon Street, East Road, Nelligan Terrace, School Street, Brimfield Road, Crouch Road, and Coy Hill Road. And this was prior to my August 31st, 2015 phone call. My intention of me speaking was to allow residents and voters to get on this financial deal, not one selectman individual choosing where to put the tower, so he would get the commission. As of today, 2018...
Mr. Burrell, I'm going to stop you right there. This is twice now. I've given you the courtesy
Yes.
to be put on the agenda, even though your past issues, but this is, in the last couple of minutes, you have made vague references and accusations to a former selectman regarding some financial issues. Unless you have proof, this conversation is over.
Can I finish reading the other
No, you
pages?
cannot. You're done.
Can I always
No, you cannot. You're
Can I
done.
answer your question?
You're done.
So I'm going to say just one thing. I would like the board to contact the cell provider company and ask them about the $10,000 finder's fee. Because obviously I don't have authorization to do that.
No, you don't.
So would this board be willing to do that, to come up with that answer?
That'll be discussed between the board. But as far as I'm concerned, Mike, I've given you every opportunity to sit here and warned you at the beginning not to sit there and throw pot shots and make accusations that you have absolutely no documentation to prove except a phone call from somebody else. You are done, Mr. Burlow.
Well, I do have other...
Mr. Burlow, you're done.
But there are-
Conversation is over, Mr. Burlow.
I understand.
Please leave.
You have handouts, which I was
I
going to go
don't,
over.
Mr. Barillo, how many times do I have to tell this to you? You are done.
I I don't understand.
Well, I know you don't understand it, but we're playing by the rules, and I expect some courtesy and some, don't come sitting here firing pot shots and make accusations that you have no documentation. I've had conversations with you for 10 years, and
Yeah.
every single time, my lawyer's gonna get you this, I'm gonna get you that. We have nothing. I've had enough. So, please, thank you very much.
Can I get your
No, you're done.
documents?
You're done.
Okay.
Good night.
All right, well, I thank the board for whatever short time I had. Thank you.
You're welcome. New business, Mr. Nardi.
Just get that one.
Oh, treasury warrants and invoices. John, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, vote we approve and sign warrant number 88, $40,360.74. 89, $55,179.76, dated 4/30/2018.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman, warrant number 90 for $44,632.91 for $52,309.23, dated 5/7/2018.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I vote we approve and sign warrant number 92 for $36,848.65, and warrant number 93 for $404,346.97.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
We have drawdown invoices, fiscal year 17, invoice number 2 for the FY17 Warren Domestic Violence Protection Project, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for $6,609.16.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Now, Mr. Nardi.
Just two quick things. The board recently received our last amount for the rebates for the LED program for Mr. Richards to sign off as chair. That amount came out to just under $9,000, which was 30% of the installation. So that last piece of the rebate pie of the LED project will be coming into the town shortly. Mr. Richards signed it tonight. The only other thing I have to add, sir, is that I'd just like to echo your sentiments to congratulate John. I look forward to working with him. And welcome to the board. And that's it, sir.
John, you're in the spotlight.
Nothing at this moment other than I voice Leo's concerns about getting some veterans out there to join the parade, and anybody else. Any
I
other
marched with Leo last year.
associations
Like I said, there was.
that may be interested.
Yeah.
All right, I have nothing. I think John has a little bit of catching up to do to get on board with some of the ongoing issues, so it's not something I want to bring up a lot of new business right now. But I would like to, the board to recognize and offer our condolences. Lisa Mundell, everybody in this room is very familiar with Lisa. She's been a volunteer for town for 20 plus years. She does the cable, the CERT, et cetera, et cetera. Her mom passed away Sunday night, so the board would like to extend their condolences to Lisa. Otherwise, we'll be looking for meetings there, Beck.
The 22nd, I think, is the next one. We only have one thing so far, so we had talked earlier about doing a quick board meeting.
Yeah. So the 22nd is
So
a tentative date?
Tentative date, yeah, so we'll wait till Thursday till we have to post. Maybe something will come in.
Alrighty. One last thing, let's have a good turnout for the parade this year. Hopefully the weather's good, but let's pay a little respect to where respect is due. Other than that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much, folks.
All in favor, aye.
All right.